declare this an emergency. Come on and spread a sense of urgency and pull us through. And pull us through. And this is the end. This is the end of the world. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter from deep in the bowels of our underground lair, where we are writing checks that our bodies can't cash, bringing you exactly what you need to know in the state of Minnesota. What you doing, Andrew?
Oh,
how are things?
Things are good.
Yeah?
Not doing anything. There's nothing new to report.
Nothing new to report.
Nope. Not at all.
Worst state government, worst federal government in the history of the United States.
Well, that's tough to say because you've had some bad ones.
We've had some bad ones. Come on. President Biden is the worst president we've ever had. Woodrow Wilson is maybe the one president that gives him a little bit of run for his money, but
Franklin Pierce, James Buchanan. I don't know that.
But as far as state government, you tell me another period that's worse than this. Sure, there's been some crappy decisions, like giving the Met Council the power that it has, and things like that. But to the level of depravity and the level of just stupid decisions,
well,
it's never been beat.
It's up there for sure.
Never been beat.
It's a nightmare to live in this state right now.
As
much as I love the state, Minnesota will always be my home. It's embarrassing. I mean, I'm ashamed of it.
Yeah.
So it stinks. There's no doubt about it. I don't see it changing much. I don't know that. I think the money and power and special interests and the merger of corporations and government,
right,
make changing it on either side pretty much impossible. I don't think the Republicans are much better. I agree with them on issues a little bit more, even though they rarely,
do anything.
I mean, if they had the majorities and the governor, I don't think they would have pushed everything through. I think it would have been. I think they'd have been slammed from every side. And I've said this before. I think one of the ways to fix this is to take 2/3 of the vote to pass a law.
Yeah.
That would protect the Constitution. It would protect the minority party on both sides.
Can we fix all the crap that went wrong first before we do that? Can we?
No, well, again, I don't know. I suppose. But it would take a constitution change to do that. But I don't know. I think it would. It allows the two sides. This is why all the money goes into a handful of seats, because same thing in Congress, because both sides have written their districts. Both sides have X amount of seats that they don't even care about, and whoever gets the majority by 1 or 2 seats just tries to ramrod everything through, and that's not what the framers envisioned. But we're living in those consequences. We, the people, gave these people power, and we have to pay the consequences for it.
Yeah, I don't know. And last time around, even more money went into these races, because in a number of districts where it's really difficult, if not impossible, for Republicans to win, the money goes out to these battleground races, and you get outspent. You got to run somebody.
Well, you look at Hennepin County. In November, there was not a Republican sheriff on the ballot, a Republican county attorney on the ballot. There was not. There were, I believe, a dozen races that did not, just in Hennepin County, that the DFL did not have an opponent.
Right.
You wonder why Scott Jensen lost it by such a margin, and a lot of political pundits have blamed him. But ultimately, if there's nobody, knocking on doors at a local level, that's going to affect his numbers too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of there's a domino effect. Same thing with the top of the ticket. It can work the other way too. Top of the ticket can weaken lower races, and lower races can help or weaken the top.
Right.
It all works together, and the DFL has their machine, which they're so much better at politics than Republicans are. Republicans are obsessed with being right. Democrats are obsessed with winning, which is a big mentality problem on the Republican side.
Mm-hmm.
I was in that party for 18 years. I can tell you the activists don't care about winning and losing. They care about their little issue or their purity of those. Some guy voted for this in 2014, so they can't blah, blah, blah. And I'm so tired of those arguments. I don't care about them. And so it just, if you want to argue about, not you personally,
right.
but if you people want to argue about that, you do it. Just don't include me.
I agree with you a little bit. I partially agree with you. They do care about winning their little pet issues. But I do think they want to win. I just don't think they know how to win. And they don't have people in the party that know how to win.
Well, but again, what's the greatest form of flattery?
Imitation.
You know, Walt Disney once said he could innovate faster than his competition could innovate.
Yes.
And that's the task before Republicans. They have got to figure out how to use some Democratic tactics without becoming them.
Right.
So, you know, I don't think it's that difficult. I think it starts on a small scale, not a big scale. That's, again, the upside down thinking that goes on in politics, too. It doesn't start with running for president. That can be a catalyst to something.
Yeah.
But, you know, ultimately long-term success in being a 50-state party, you know, requires everything down the line, and it requires people doing different things too. I mean, every place isn't the same, and I don't see that happening. I don't see it happening anytime soon. That's just me. By the way, the song, "The End of the World," that's REM.
That is no.
I heard "The End of the World."
That is,
and we know it.
That is a song from REM, but that's not the
REM.
one. That's
so
not,
you wanted to spell it? I thought it was REM.
No, they say REM. That's what they say. So I'll go by that. But that is not the song that I read.
Oh, I thought it was. I thought it was "The End of the World." Didn't you say "The End of the World"?
That is in part of the lyrics. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's a great answer.
Well, it is a good guess. I'll give you that. It's a good guess.
Who is it? Is it Axl Rose?
No.
Oh, okay.
This song is called "Apocalypse Please" by the band Muse.
Muse. I have heard of them.
Yes.
I can't name anything from them, but I've heard of them. Now
you can. "Apocalypse Please."
Apocalypse Please.
And this is not their first entry into the podcast
That's right.
playlist.
I have heard that name maybe a few years ago, but I know I've heard it. Now, do we have a song by Mighty Mouse, or what was it called?
Mighty Mouse.
No, it's
what?
Mighty. Isn't that a band?
No.
Modest Mouse.
Modest Mouse.
Do we have a song for them?
I don't think we do.
Okay, I'm just curious.
I do like Modest Mouse.
Okay.
They are.
What did I say?
Mighty Mouse. Here I come to save the day. Right?
Well, Rocky and Bullwinkle got a song too. Now, Jay, back up here a second here. I want to say one thing about, you've heard of this case of John Thompson's kid, right? Killing 5 people or whatever, I can't quite remember the details, but the film of it was released on Twitter and all that stuff.
I heard about it. I haven't really heard much about it.
Well, the latest thing on the case, and I'm not sure I have this right.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure. But I am tickled with how many people have not really made the political connection here. You know, if this were Donald Trump Jr., this would be, this would be the only thing being talked about on television.
Right.
I mean, this guy had a suspended license in California. He was involved in drug crimes, had a whole bunch of stuff on him, including weapons, guns.
Oh, he's hanging out with Hunter Biden, it sounds like.
Okay, and I want to bring this to Hunter Biden, too, because where is the outrage on the left? From here are the people. I mean, let me go to Hunter Biden first. By the way, the thing I was going to mention is that CARE Minnesota, that Muslim group, is trying to blame the police for this.
Oh, really?
Yes, claiming that Thompson was evading police, which is really not true. This was a high-speed chase, and it wasn't. Nobody was pursuing him in high speed, but they're calling for, they don't want the BCA or anybody else investigating this.
Yes.
The Moriarty, the Hennepin County Attorney, is launching an investigation into who leaked the video. We're concerned about that.
We're not concerned about the crime. We're concerned about who.
I mean, he is facing a number of charges. I can't see this going to trial. I see a deal being cut here, but because the penalties for vehicular manslaughter are not as strong here in Minnesota as maybe they should be. But the whole point, I want to just say this. This guy is caught with guns, okay? Hunter Biden cuts a deal where he pleads guilty to income tax evasion as well as a weapons charge. Now, where is the outrage among Democrats?
Right.
I mean, here again, we have the president of the United States who wants to take everybody's guns away. He says so. Read his tweets.
Yeah.
And he wants everybody to pay their fair share, whatever that means, in taxes. Yet his own son just takes a plea deal on both issues.
Yeah.
But where is anybody pointing this out in the mainstream media? I mean,
no.
How crazy is that?
Why would they point that out? Because that destroys their narrative.
That's a family values Republican caught with his secretary. It's the end of everybody. Then.
Yes. Absolutely it is.
And that hasn't happened to a Democrat since Gary Hart.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. It hasn't.
It hasn't. But yet, I can tell you it happens almost for sure. But yeah, I mean, this is what happens with the mainstream media. It's like no matter what goes on the Democrat side, they cover for it. They cover and they cover and they cover and they will not report. And when they do, it's like in the 7th paragraph of some article that they put in the middle of the fashion section, and nobody ever sees it. Oh, sure, we reported on it. You didn't do anything. I mean, that's why this Hunter Biden stuff should have been reported on when it was happening. Instead, everybody squelched it until it got to the point where, I'm sorry, you can't cover it up anymore. The cover-up has been blown wide open, but still they're ignoring it. Well, and they're making excuses for it. And
yeah, the New York
Times.
The New York Times has run articles claiming Hunter Biden is the victim of drug use, or he's
obviously he's stupid.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Yeah. If he's charged with income tax evasion, what was his income exactly?
Yeah. Think of all the people that have gone
that's how they nail Al Capone.
That's how they nailed Al Capone.
Which is absurd. Absurdity.
Martha Stewart went to prison for that.
Yes, which is, again, absurd as well.
Yes.
My opinion. I mean, I'm no Martha fan, but the charges against her were awful.
Many people have gone to prison for this. And how many regular people that there's just an error on their taxes, or there's some sort of hiccup with, they get behind a little bit.
Well, it's changed a little bit over the years.
A little bit, but still, how bad does the IRS pursue these people and make their life a living nightmare?
The IRS, there's no limits to what they can do.
And Hunter Biden can just go free. And a felony, a weapons felony. Now, I'm very pro Second Amendment, but if you lie on an application to buy a weapon, like over and over and over, like multiple?
What if he shot up a school? These same Democrats would be singing a totally different tune.
Yeah, but yet we have a president that wants to ban many, if not most, weapons. But yet his son can carry one around illegally.
I'd love to put a weapon in front of Joe Biden and see if he can tell me anything about it.
Yeah.
Who are you to make laws? Put that weapon in front of you. Tell me, Mr. Biden, how do you load that? How do you shoot that? How does the cartridge eject?
He can't make laws. He's the executive branch. He should not be making laws.
Well, yeah, he can't make laws, but he
tries to.
Yeah, he does whatever he can to try. But we're awaiting, and by the time this gets public, we'll have the Supreme Court decision, by the way. I think they'll strike it down, but I'm on the fence as to whether they really will.
Yeah, I don't know.
But if the president can cancel this is a test case of presidential power here. And if he can, we've already established that all a politician has, like Robert Kennedy Jr. said on Joe Rogan's podcast, we're at a point now where any executive can declare an emergency and do anything they want.
Right. Yeah.
We've established that.
Right.
So if we say that a president can cancel a contract, forget about what you think on the issue. If they can cancel a private contract,
Yeah.
They could cancel the loan in your house if they want to.
Absolutely.
So where does it end? This is going to get tested again and again. If the court doesn't strike this down, they've set a precedent now that the president can do anything he wants.
Yep.
So I'm on the fence as to whether I think it's going to be a closer decision than people think.
Yeah.
So I think one or two of the conservatives could waffle on this.
Right.
I mean, Thomas, Alito, but I'm worried about Roberts. I've got a little worry about Kavanaugh. And Amy Barrett's been on the opposite side of 2 or 3 decisions so far.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a little concerned. Gorsuch has been on one case. So now you could say that these justices are trying to be fair. They're not just ideologues, and there's a case to be made for that. But at the same time, this is pretty cut and dry law right here. I don't see where the president can do this.
You could also say that it's possible they're a little worried about some things too because of all the demonstrating and picketing outside their homes last year.
But let me tell you something. If they kowtow to it, it's going to get worse, not better.
Absolutely.
You give in to the mob, it'll get 10, then they'll come after you even more. You change the sports team's name, and they want the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next. It never stops.
Never stops.
So to me, to kowtow to that, I think is if they back down, it's going to be worse for them, not better. That's me. Yeah. That's just what I think. Anyhow, Jay.
Before we move on, I'm hot under the collar about something. Sorry, I just came across our news monitor here. It's June, okay?
I'm so glad June's almost over.
Oh, me too. It's Gay Pride Month.
I've learned to just hate this month.
I have to. It came across our news monitor.
I'm for people being who they are.
Yep.
But I don't want it in my face. Is that too bad? Is that too much to ask?
When you're an adult, you get to choose how you want to live your life. Fine. Okay? Fine. But let me tell you this. When you involve kids, nothing makes me angrier than when you start involving kids. Did you see much about this where it looks like in Seattle and a couple other places with these gay pride situations?
Cities, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they have adults wandering around completely naked in front of children.
And why is it always the ugly, bad-looking, hairy people? Why are they always naked?
When you are naked...
I don't want to see your hairy butt and hairy armpits, okay?
When you are naked in front of a child, that's child abuse.
Yes,
that is cause for you to go to prison for pedophile behavior and to be...
Yeah, if that happened in a classroom
chemically
or in
castrated,
a
as far as
daycare
I'm
center, those people would be arrested. No
they
doubt
should
about
be.
It. And by the way, thank you to my friend Rebecca Brannon. She's the one who made a lot of this public on Twitter. Yeah. You watch Channel 5, Channel 9, they don't put that stuff out there.
No.
It was all alternative media that did Alpha News. You can thank them for that. The stuff that's been on Fox.
Yeah.
Fox News, I mean. It all came from alternative media. The regular mainstream media here in Minneapolis won't touch it.
So I've seen some of it on
I've seen more of it than I care to.
Well, not me. I have in that I see any of it at all, but I've only seen what's been on mainstream news as far as Fox News goes. Was there stuff from Minneapolis? Or did it happen here too?
Yes.
Really? So this was organized.
Go to Rebecca Brannon's Twitter page.
I'd rather not.
Oh, well, I mean, you can read what she writes then. But Alpha News, there's other places that covered this honestly.
Yeah. So this was a coordinated effort. I mean, can we agree on that? Because this hasn't happened.
Education Minnesota was part of it too.
This hasn't.
They marched in the parade.
This has not happened before with, like, as far as I know, with completely naked people marching in parades and standing around.
I don't know. Probably.
To my knowledge. And
San
for it to happen
or
in
something.
this many places at once, that has to be coordinated.
Of course it is. It's all
I'm sorry. These people should be in prison today.
Yeah, with no clothes on, by the way.
I don't care. In prison today. For if you're doing this in a place specified for that, again, adult decisions amongst adults.
Well, there are nude beaches, but there's no kids there.
Fine. When you're doing this in front of a child, you need to go to jail.
And I'm sorry, why are children at this?
Yeah.
What kind of parent takes their kid to
A
this?
bad one that needs their kids lifted
You got
from them and put
you got
in foster
nothing better
care.
to do on a Saturday than watch a gay pride parade?
Yeah, grown naked people marching around. I'm sorry. You deserve to lose your children. Maybe that's controversial, but you're a bad parent.
You're going to have to bring Dr.
Bad
Phil
parent.
in on this.
I don't care about Dr. Phil. I care about these people going to jail.
His show's over, by the way. You know that he ended his show last
Did he?
month? Yes.
Wow.
And where Dr. Phil after 22 years.
Why is that?
His contract ran. He's 73 years old and he decided to quit. But so that's sad to me because I love Dr. Phil, even though it's kind of strange. I'm not a big believer in mental illness.
Yeah.
But I love his approach to problems. I love his tough love. It's old school. He gets criticized a lot by even by fellow mental health people because Phil is slow to medicate and he's
Yeah, I like that.
very different and he's very pro family. He's a Christian guy, and I think I think his show is good to. I'll tell you what. One great thing about Dr. Phil, he has 22 years. He never ran out of crazy women. He never ran out of men who are a-holes. It's just I've never seen collection. Why do they attract each other? Why does an abusive jerk attract a completely crazy, whacked out woman?
Well, maybe they deserve each other.
Yeah, but their kids don't deserve
No,
that. That's where I get.
Well,
that's where I get angry too.
Yeah,
is their
I do
kids don't
too.
deserve
The
that.
kids don't deserve that, but try to keep people from procreating.
Anyway,
I
no
don't
more.
know. I don't know.
Keep them out of the trailer parks. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
One thing about trailer parks, anybody who lives there can procreate like crazy. Just take it from me. I've never lived in one. But go through one. There's nobody walking around in there with a dead noodle. Anyway, so
Oh boy.
so Jay, I don't know where that came from.
Wow.
So we're just on a roll today, but I want
Yes.
to get back. I want to talk about what we're gonna get into here in a sec here.
All right.
I don't know how many people out there. We've done a lot of education shows over 6 years, Jay, and some of them are specific, some of them aren't. Some of them are about what's going on in St. Paul. Some of them have been about referendums. Some have been budgetary. Some of them have been education, finance stuff, policy stuff. We've kind of touched everything, I think.
Right.
We've probably done 40 shows on education.
Yeah, that's probably true.
MEA weekend. Just union stuff. What's going on in Minneapolis, I'm really surprised at how little coverage it's getting.
Are you really?
Yes, because the consequences of what's going on there are going to reverberate through the entire state. Minneapolis public schools are in such a financial poop hole,
Yes.
and I don't know how they're going to get out of it. I really don't.
I do. You, me,
Well, right.
the people up in Pelican Rapids,
War Road,
yeah,
Pequot Lakes.
sure, Albert Lee.
Okay, you're
Yeah.
probably right, and I think you are. I'm going to make the case that you are right, Jay. But I don't know that I've been in a situation where I can't even get facts straight. First off, let me start with an article from Channel 5.
Okay.
Minneapolis School Board votes to approve $976 million budget. $976 million budget.
That is almost $1 billion for one school district.
It's incredible. And this article is so short. School district is facing serious financial trouble and could dip into the negative when federal COVID-19 funding dries up in a year. Well, they've known that since 2020.
Right. You spent money you didn't have.
You spent one-time money.
Yeah, exactly.
And you didn't adjust your expenses for the future. That's like getting a bonus at work and going out and taking out 3 loans.
Right.
Well,
what they did is hire a bunch of drunken sailors to spend their money, and they didn't account for the money running out.
Now listen to this. Listen to this paragraph from Channel 5. The district said the issues causing this are rising costs and declining enrollment. Well, I'm sorry. If your enrollment is declining, why are your costs going up?
Yeah.
If you got fewer students, wouldn't it reason that you'd have fewer staff, fewer buses, fewer bus drivers, fewer schools?
You're serving fewer lunches.
Yeah. So why are the costs rising then?
Well,
and I love Channel 5's investigative reporting here. I mean, there's so much depth to these 4 paragraphs.
Yeah. The district reported that the number of children under 5 and living in the city fell 17% between 2020 and 2021 alone. You know why that is? Because your city sucks. Because you're allowing crime to continue to rise in your city. People don't want their kids there.
Now, let me even take that further. COVID and at-home learning, what they call distance learning, opened a lot of people's eyes to what was being studied.
Yes.
So people have moved, pulled their kids out of the district.
Right.
That is some of that. Some of that might be natural. Some of that, I mean, there's a lot of factors at play there.
Right.
Now, here's the interesting thing. Channel 11, listen to this. There's some tough decisions for the Minneapolis public schools as it deals with a $42 million deficit due to a drop in enrollment and dwindling COVID-19 federal funds. Wait a minute. That's not what it's due. That's not the reason.
Right.
It's because they've mismanaged the money.
Yeah.
Except they claim that on this very same night, the school board voted on a $754 million budget. So how could they be off by $220 million?
I don't know. That's still a heck of a lot of money.
It's likely the district will have to close buildings and lay off staff. We understand, and our finance department has been telling us for 5 to 7 years we're operating as if we have 50,000 students, and we don't. Well, said MPS board member Kim Ellison. Well,
and yes, Kim Ellison, isn't that Keith Ellison's ex-wife?
It might be. I don't know.
Yeah.
But my question is...
Let me look that up.
My question is, okay, for 5 to 7 years, who's been approving these budgets?
Yeah.
You're getting told this, but you're approving the budgets anyway.
Right.
So whose fault is this?
That is the most irresponsible in financial decisions.
It's a statement accepting no responsibility for it.
Yeah, it's terrible. You know it's going in the wrong direction, but that doesn't stop you from spending the money. I mean, that is worse. So, yes. All right. So just so that we're aware of what's happening here in the state of Minnesota and the kind of cabal, and I don't like dynasties. I really don't. We had George Bush. I didn't need George W. Bush. I really didn't. We had
Jeb.
Bill Clinton. No, definitely not Jeb. We had Bill Clinton. We definitely don't need Hillary Clinton.
We certainly don't need Chelsea.
And we certainly don't need Chelsea.
Whether she can shoot milk from her nose or not.
Right. So this is from Twin Cities Magazine, or TCB, is that Twin Cities Business Magazine. Okay. The Ellison family, Keith, Kim, and Jeremiah. Minnesota Attorney General Keith, chair of the Minneapolis Board of Education, Kim, and Minneapolis City Council member Jeremiah.
Jeremiah was a councilman, was not a good friend of mine. Like my singing day.
That's fantastic. Okay, so here we have in one family, we have the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota, the head of the Minneapolis Board of Education, Kim, and a city council member from Minneapolis, Jeremiah. I'm sorry, is that a little too much concentration of power in one family?
Just a tad.
I don't know. And none of them seem to be doing a good job. You have Jeremiah, who wanted to get rid of the police. You have Keith Ellison, who is siding with groups that were radicals, like Antifa. And now you got Kim, who can't seem to add. Sorry, get out of the education business. You can't add or subtract and keep a budget.
Well, and here's Minnesota Reformer actually does quite a bit of a much better article here.
Yeah.
Here is my question now.
Okay.
So let's just go with the low. They got 28,000 students.
Yes.
Let's go with the lower number of $754 million budget. And maybe that's the operating. I don't know.
Yeah.
That is almost $27,000 a kid.
Yeah.
27,000.
Yeah. It doesn't take too much to pay for a teacher. You know what?
Okay, if there's
a kid and a half, maybe two kids. If
there's 20 kids in a class, that's $500,000. That's $500,000 a year they're bringing in. Okay, that teacher is not taking the majority of that money.
Right.
So where is it going?
Not to the teacher.
I mean, the teachers are making whatever they're making plus benefits. I mean, whatever that is. I have no idea.
I mean, granted, you got. I maybe I should look this up. I want to see how much the superintendent of Minneapolis schools makes.
Okay, I just want to back up a second here.
Yeah.
So Minnesota Reformer probably does a much better job of a total article here. The article is from June 12th, 2023. I don't know how you say this lady's name. Dina Winter. Deena.
Yeah.
Dina, whatever. I don't know what people name their kids today, but she has the $976 million figure in here.
Yeah.
But what they're in danger of doing, this is the other big thing. The district's most recent 5-year budget projection predicts, quote, an imminent financial crisis due to declining enrollment and failure to cut costs. Now, I don't know if this is her adding this in or if this is her being the author here. I don't know if because that's not in quotes. Existing, quote, footprint, practices, policies, and priorities, we expect the district to confront an unprecedented fiscal crisis in the 24-25 school year, which would be a year from September. If no action is taken, the general fund will be depleted sometime in 2025, and the district will descend into the red, triggering state intervention, which I don't know is any better than anything else.
Yeah.
No, without significant blah, 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 blah. Kim Ellison is quoted again here. The district spent, okay, this is where it gets confusing.
Yeah.
The district spends $3,900 more per student on general operating costs in 2021 than the 15 other largest districts in Minnesota. Why do they get so much more money?
Minneapolis? Well, that's a great question. I suppose they have the most lobbying power. They probably have the
free and reduced lunch, most
special ed. And I taught in the Minneapolis schools. Okay,
that's right.
Full time for 1 year, and I was a sub for a year.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, me too.
You've shared experiences over the years, Jay, off and on camera here.
Yeah, and
on mic.
And let me just say, of all the experiences I've shared, how many of them have been about the kids?
Zero. It's all been your problem with administration.
Yeah, all been administration. They were terrible. And it's no wonder their schools are in the dumper because their administration was, and continues to be terrible and will be for the foreseeable future. Tell
us how you really feel.
When I was teaching there, I would say, I don't know what the total population of the school was. It looked like half the school was in special education. The list of kids that were in special ed, I remember it was posted along the wall.
This is a good 20-something years ago, by the way, right?
Yes, this would have been like 99, 2000.
Okay.
The list was posted next to the door going out of the teacher's lounge. And I remember that list must have been 50 kids long. We're talking middle school, so it's 3 grades. And it must have been 50 kids or more that were in special ed.
For what?
Mostly, I'm sure, EBD, which just means that
What's
their parents
EBD?
Emotionally, behaviorally disabled. Yeah. So
It's got to be 10 times as bad
kids
now.
that they stuck on Ritalin, kids that were hyperactive, kids that,
what we used to call a spoiled brat, we now call
EBD.
ADHD or whatever like that.
Yeah.
Do you realize, had Ritalin been around in the mid-'80s, that I'd have been hooked up to an IV? I can't remember.
It was around. I took it for a very short amount of time, like in 2nd grade.
I just remember my mom, he's a hyper boy. He's a special boy.
And it's not that I was that
go
hyper.
Home, home and run around outside. That's what I was told.
I was just kind of bored, and I would start to daydream.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I do that now.
Yeah.
I mean, what's one thing? Yeah. I mean, that's something.
I could read at 3, so I was kind of bored until everybody caught up, and then we all just kind of hung out in the middle.
That's a problem, though, is the kids not getting challenged, and
I mean, to be fair, they stuck me a grade up or more in my reading, but it's still
they did that with me in math because of the same thing. I got my work done so fast that I threw spitballs at people, and they ended up sticking me in the high class.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of, and I've shared this story too because I've had friends of mine share these things. So they don't like to have the high class, the regular class, and the low class.
Yeah.
Because those classes aren't racially diverse enough.
Yes.
So what they do is they throw everybody in a melting pot, and the good kids are way ahead. The kids that are behind don't get the help that they need to catch up with everybody, and it just ends up being a concoction of poop. You just can't decipher anything out of it because racial stuff is what dominates the things. Now it's probably the kid's sexual preference. But here's the other thing too. So according to the state education database, Minneapolis spends over $20,000 per student in general funds. Now, general funds, I don't really know how they define that completely, but because as city, I could tell you a little better. But the school board chair, Sharon Elamin, said during the meeting the board must consider closing schools.
Closing stools? Is that what
schools?
You said? Schools? Okay.
Consolidating resources and relocating buildings as we're going to pick them up and move them. Perhaps using them to house homeless people.
Oh.
That's what we ought to do, but that won't cost anything.
Who's going to pay for that?
3 squares a day, baby. God, what an airhead. No one wants to have a closed school building in their neighborhood. Well, just let the city council get their hands on it.
Yeah.
They'll turn it into high-density housing and tax the hell out of it. Problem solved. Board member, oh boy, Fathia Ferrari said she can't support closing schools unless she sees evidence it's the best solution to their budget problems. We got any better ideas there, Ferrari? Let me put it this way. Let's say you had a building. Yeah. Let's say you had a company and you had 10 businesses. You had 10 locations, and you faced a decline for I don't know how long in customers.
Right.
What point do you go, maybe we just have too many stores?
Yeah.
Maybe having 5 big stores is better than I don't know. I mean, wouldn't you reach that point after like year 3 of declining and year 4? Maybe your corporate board of directors might make you do it.
With the private school down the street has more kids than the public school. Yeah. But Robbinsdale went through this, where they closed some buildings because they didn't have enough.
They've done that several times.
And then all of a sudden they have too many, and they got to reopen them. Again, just terrible planning.
Well, in fairness to Robbinsdale, 1 or 2 of those buildings they kept and repurposed.
Yeah, they did.
And
they didn't sell them off. Yeah, they considered it.
Kavanaugh, I think, was the only one that they really sold off.
Yeah.
Pilgrim Lane and Robbinsdale they kept.
But they were looking at, selling Sandberg, I remember.
They were looking at it. I think they backed off when the enrollment stopped declining.
Right.
But, again,
that's because all the Minneapolis kids started coming out to
or moving out there, or whatever. I mean, there's no way to project all of that.
Right.
But the point being, this is something else that I found interesting. USnews.com has a whole bunch of educational stuff. This is a couple years old.
Yes.
But they said that 96 school buildings Minneapolis School District has. 96.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are a lot of buildings in this district.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there's just a ton of them, and so I think it's incumbent upon them to go, okay, you have buildings that are housing 300 kids. The building next door is 400. The building next door is 400. The building next door is 350. I mean,
the average is 341 kids per school.
Now, does that include all the early childhood and all the? I mean,
according to this, because they say that Minneapolis Public School District contains 96 schools and 32,722 students,
which has got to be a couple years old now.
Yeah, but that's an average of 341 kids per school. So that's small. I mean, it really is. When I think when I
went to Cooper, my graduating, I mean, I bet there were over 2,000 kids at that high school.
Probably. My graduating class, Proctor High School, not a big district, but it covered a lot of ground. I mean, we had how many elementary schools? There was Bayview, there was Munger, there was Caribou Lake, there was Pike Lake. And then there were kids that came over from the Catholic school, St. Rose. So you had 5 schools that were feeding one high school. And
really, that's bigger than I expected.
Yeah. Well, they came from all these outlying areas out in the townships and stuff. So 230 kids was my graduating class in Proctor, which was suburb of Duluth. That was it.
And what's the population of Proctor?
Now I don't know. Back when I graduated, it was about 3,600.
Okay.
So that is one class. Okay. We in our high school have 4 classes, right? We had 9th, 10th, 11th, and
4
12th.
grades, yeah.
So yeah.
So say 1,000 kids.
1,000 kids
in
one
guess.
school.
Yeah.
Each Minneapolis school is having about 340 kids in each school. That's stupid.
That's got to include everything, though. That's got to include alternative schools, early learning.
Yeah,
I mean, it's got to all be included.
I'm sure. But you also have North High. You have Patrick Henry High. You have Roosevelt High. You have Southwest High. You have a number of middle schools.
You've got a lot of high schools.
Yeah.
Times now.
Yeah.
As graduating like 100 kids.
Yeah.
Guess who graduates and who attends? I mean, those are two different things.
Well, not so much anymore. I mean, you have to really go out of your way to not graduate. Yeah. I mean, you really have to not want to graduate to not graduate.
Here's an interesting thing to this report, because the report given to the city. Listen to what the report cites as possible reasons for the decline of enrollment in Minneapolis schools. Yeah. We want to take a guess as to what they are, Jay. This is what they claim the top 3 are.
Okay. Top 3 reasons for declining enrollment. Let's see. Racism would be number 1. No, I'm just kidding.
You're not completely off on it.
Really? I was trying to be facetious.
I'm going to give you half a point there.
Really?
The murder of George Floyd.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
The murder
and the
of George
ensuing
Floyd.
Civil unrest. That is probably true to
there
an
might
extent.
be some truth to that. If I were a parent, I would get my kid the heck out of there.
Or get the hell out of Minneapolis.
Right.
Exactly.
So
I don't think that's totally
I would be moving wrong. To Richfield. I would be moving to Edina.
I'd be moving to anywhere I could.
Crystal. Yeah. Anywhere I could to get out of Minneapolis. I'll tell you what. So that's got to be 1. Number 2, truancy.
No, but
No?
that should be one of the reasons.
It should be. Or dropout. I mean, that's not really truancy, I guess. That dropout rate.
No.
Okay.
Put it this way. It has nothing to do with the schools or their performance.
Oh. It's not diverse enough.
The other two reasons are the COVID lockdowns.
Oh, really?
And the teacher strike from last year. That's what they're claiming the reasons are people are leaving.
Okay, those two are just dumb. The COVID strike affected every school in the district.
Every school in the state.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Every school in the state. And, sorry, what was the last one again?
The teacher strike last year, which lasted 14 days.
I'm sorry. People are, 14 days. Who's going to get up and move in 14 days? That's stupid.
I'm saying a lot. This is from the author.
I'm sorry, I'm being so tonight. But
no, that's okay. You're on a roll. This is also something the author of this report, of this article says.
Yeah.
Unmentioned in the report, performance has been mediocre at best. Something the school district doesn't criticize itself for.
Right.
Only 33% of Minneapolis public school students met 2022 standards in math, 42% in reading, and 33% in science. Teachers, however, got a 5% raise over the next 2 years, combined with $4,000 in bonuses. So,
for what? They ain't teaching.
I don't know. But the contract has made a lot of things worse in the district. Minneapolis Teachers Union's officials are refusing to respond for multiple requests for comment. We all know why. They're on the phone with Walls.
Right.
School board member Lori Norville said that the board has used, quote, a lot of Band-Aids to patch things, but must become financially stable. We've got a lot of deep issues, she said. We've got some things on the fire we need to take care of. Oh, well, no kidding, lady. I mean, geez. So a much better article if you want a little bit more. Now, the statutory operating debt and the state taking over is a little bit vague. I'm not really clear as to how that procedure works.
Yeah.
I don't know that because this was threatened in Robbinsdale too, and I don't know that the state, quote unquote, takes over the district. I think they legally can force the district to make certain changes or force them to have a plan to get out. I don't know that they can on that. So I don't know. I mean, but Jay, I want to talk bigger here than Minneapolis, because I think one of the things that is concerning me, I mean, like I said, one article calls this $29 million, one calls it 42, one calls it 97.
Yeah.
They're going to face a bond rating decrease. They're not going to be able to borrow their way out of this. That's another consequence to this. Not that they should anyway, but it's just bad all over. First off, I thought we fully funded education. Wasn't that something that you heard? I thought I read that. I know I read that somewhere
just
once.
Passed an omnibus bill to fund education, from what I can understand.
No, I want to show too the dangers of one-time money.
Yes.
Why is it? You and I have talked a million times about, I don't want to get into technical terms, baseline budgeting and zero-based, and we're going to face this at the state with a 38% increase in spending.
Wow.
You just wait till the next recession, and nobody's getting an increase. Nobody's going to get nothing for the next 10 years. That's just period.
No. The government gets what it wants. Well, you don't get anything.
Yeah. So I mean. Yeah. This whole idea of one-time money, this whole idea that the federal government's going to print money, then send it out to districts, telling them you're not going to get this in 2 years.
Right.
Okay? It ain't coming to you.
Mm-hmm.
So Minneapolis knows this, yet does nothing about it, and now they're facing this catastrophe here.
Right. Instead of using that money to shore up their district, they just blew it.
Or putting it in reserves, which they could have done. They could have done a study on enrollment and said, okay, should we close this school or that school? They could have done a I don't want to say a sales pitch, but they could have worked on retaining students. They could have worked on if COVID lockdowns were a problem. Well, as of September of 2020, it was districts that made that decision.
Right.
Say what you want about the governor, as big a doorknob as he is. From September of 2020 on, no schools were closed down by the state.
Mm-hmm.
So if you closed down, another district didn't, they could have upped their performance.
Yeah.
There's a million things they could have done, and they've done none of it. Absolutely. And I don't think they're going to do any of it. This is where they keep saying that they're going to.
Yeah.
But if you're going to go close schools, Jay, you don't do that quickly.
No, you have to form a divestiture committee.
You have to, because you have to study the issue.
Right. They have to look at each property. They have to see which one is most logical to close.
They have to look at
which one is most logical to keep open.
They have to look at what areas of Minneapolis are declining faster than others. Where's the birth rates over here?
Right.
Where's the new housing over here?
If I combine these two schools, is there a problem? If not, is there a problem over here?
It could take 6 months to do a study.
We have this mostly Somali community and this mostly Hmong community. What happens if we put them together? Is that a bad thing? Is that going to cause a bunch of fights?
Well, they'll get put together at some point. I don't know. Yeah, but it is a tough row to hoe. They could have done this 5 years ago, and I'm going to make a prediction that they get bailed out.
Of course.
You have the largest teachers union in the state in Minneapolis, and you can't tell me that the DFL at the state is going to let this district cut 10%, 15%, 20% of that staff.
Right.
Impossible. Should it be done? Yeah. If you have a 17% decline, and if you're a business and your customers decline 17%, would you increase staff? Nobody on the face of the earth would do that.
Right.
Only schools and the IRS would go the other way. Yeah. So, they're not going to do anything here. Why don't we just say it? And what does this say to every other school district? The truth is there's no good options here, because if the school district's allowed to flounder, which it already is floundering if you ask me.
Yeah.
Do anybody trust the State Department of Education to do anything? We got an auditor. They should have been on top of this. They turn in a comprehensive financial report every June. The state auditor, where's she in this, sounding the alarm bells?
Nowhere.
Okay.
Not doing her job.
Yeah, I don't know what she does 40 hours a week.
It's long before then.
Yeah, and people from the community should. People should be running against these board members, with a plan to do something about this.
Yeah, instead of just running on things like our workforce isn't diverse enough, so I support having white teachers getting fired even with tenure over teachers of color because we need to be more diverse. It's stupid stuff like that gets us in positions like this, because you get a bunch of people elected that have no financial acumen whatsoever.
So let me know that I'm terrible at predicting stuff.
Yes.
But I predict they get bailed out.
Of course they will.
If they get bailed out, what's to stop the next 5 years? And the next 5 years.
Right.
And the next do 5 years.
And they'll do it again.
It's like the General Motors of schools here. How about every other school district in the state? They run a debt and say, Minneapolis got bailed out.
Right. What would stop them? Granted, the state's probably not going to bail out, the Pipestone District or Buffalo, Montrose, or what,
they might not, but
they'd probably bail that one out. But some of the smaller ones outstate are going to have a lot harder time getting the money that Minneapolis.
Yeah, they don't have the union power.
Yeah.
But still, I don't know. I wouldn't dismiss it completely, because every school board and most of the school boards and the unions back one party. That party's in power right now. And I don't know that would be, they're going to make the argument, well, the only people who suffer are the children.
Well, they are suffering.
And we can't,
not because there's not enough money.
That's true. But I mean, there just are no good options here. I don't know what a good option would be.
Yeah.
You look at the only thing I can think of is if the state does take them over and actually forces them to do these cost-cutting things.
Yeah.
But 80% of their money is spent on people, and they're not going to want to cut people. So
no,
if you don't cut people, what are you going to cut?
Well, they might cut white people.
Well, they might, but again, I don't look. There's only so many people who have a degree in teaching.
Right.
You can't. It's not like being a fry cook at McDonald's where anybody can do it. I mean, there's only so many people with a license who are qualified,
right?
Even though I question those qualifications sometimes. So you can't just. Here's the thing. This is a microcosm of public education everywhere. This is a microcosm of where this 70 or 80 year institution is heading.
Yeah.
It's heading off a cliff. And you and I have talked. What point does the system collapse under its own weight?
We're not there yet, but we have to be getting pretty close.
We're not there yet, but boy, we're not driving 10 miles an hour anymore.
No, we're not.
So I mean, look, I want kids to go to school. I want kids to learn. I want kids to get the tools they need. Okay. And you'd think that everybody would want that.
Yeah.
Now, how we get there, I mean, is meanwhile, China, Russia, they all get ahead of us.
Yeah.
We celebrate gay pride and they go to work.
Right.
And so.
Yeah. Our kids sit and see who can do the stupidest thing on TikTok, and there's show who has the greatest invention, who has completed the greatest scientific research. We are losing, and we refuse to look at it. We refuse to do anything about it. I don't know if we're overwhelmed by it. I don't know if we just don't believe it, but it's happening.
Oh, I think there's a big part of not believing, especially on the left.
Well, yeah.
Because I've had leftist people tell me, that they don't agree. This is the problem with people on the left. They won't speak out. They will not speak out. They will not do that. There's very few Tulsi Gabbards. There's very few RFK Juniors. Yeah. They're afraid of being ostracized. Yeah, remember, Democrats aren't used to being criticized.
Right.
They're not used to having their motives questioned.
Yeah.
If you're an angry white Trump voter who goes to church, you're used to that.
Yeah. You're
used to people calling you names and assuming the worst of you. And I think with these people on the left who are just, sick and tired of certain things, disagree with some things, whether it's the gender stuff or all that. And I think they're scared to speak out about it.
Not one of them voted against it. Not one of them had enough backbone to vote against it. Not one.
Yeah, but that doesn't surprise me. They're getting threats behind the scenes. They're getting threatened with primaries. They're getting threatened with committee assignments being pulled off. Yeah.
So what? You get pulled off a committee. At least you did the right thing. I mean, there's something to that, Something to doing the right thing and paying a price for it. Yeah. Do you want to be a martyr? No. But sometimes you have to be. This is where I have, admiration for Ann Bauer, who has been on your podcast a number of times. She came from that world, and she really disagrees with a lot of what is coming out of the left today.
What's happened is she didn't change.
Right.
The left changed.
Right. Yeah. She's not a card carrying Republican by any means.
Right.
But the positions of the left have gone so far to the crazy side, and she's willing to speak out about it. And so many people just are not.
Look what's happened to J.K. Rowling. Have you followed that at all?
Yeah. They are just relentless against her.
Yeah, and I
just for saying no. There's such thing as a biological man and a biological woman, and you can't change that.
Well, and the other thing that I come to is, where are the feminists in this? Where are the people who have fought for women to be equal at the workplace,
right?
Equal at getting, Title IX. Not everything I agree with, by the way, personally.
Right.
But they have fought for 50 years for women to have equal pay and so on and so forth. And I think women deserve equal pay.
Yes.
If they have the same qualifications. If
they do the job as well, just like if a man does the job not as well, the man deserves less pay.
Exactly.
Right?
It should fair be a pay regardless system. Of people's, regardless of that. So I guess I kind of support. I don't support the government forcing that, because I don't know how you'd enforce that. You have the wage police everywhere. I mean,
you'd have everybody in a union.
Yeah, well,
that's what you do.
Even then, I still don't think it would work out. Look at what they're doing as far as recruiting blacks, women. I don't know how you'd enforce that. But I support. I think the way to do that is to increase the opportunity for women and people of color, rather than try to legislate equality. That's where I differ from, say, the ERA movement and all that.
Right.
And personally, I don't care what the earned run average is. But let me just say this. Where are they, though? Where are they for women athletes? And where are they for women in the workplace? I mean, why aren't they upset at a man claiming to be a woman and beating women in athletics?
Because the powers that be aren't looking for equality. That is the smoke.
That's the red herring.
They're not even really looking for equity. That is a red herring. That is something that they put out to get certain people whipped up. We've talked about it before. You make people feel like the system is oppressing them, and all of a sudden they feel oppressed. No, this is to be able to get their agenda over, and you get enough people onto your side. You have enough very crazy people on that side of the argument that will not stop until they have destroyed America and brought it down to the level of some second and third world countries, so that it's a level playing field and you don't have the patriarchy anymore, which is developing the system that the rest of the world works under. You have to destroy it so that I
hate them. Can I just say I hate those people?
Oh, I know.
Why would you want to bring America down? Why would the goal be to bring everybody else up?
Right. It should be, and that's the way most people think.
I've said this too. I remember when the whole AIDS in Africa thing. What's the guy from YouTube, Sonny Bono?
Yeah.
You remember when he was?
Yes.
And
Bono,
I think he is a passionate guy who believes in his causes.
Absolutely.
I want to say that first.
Absolutely.
Don't think he's a bad guy. But my answer to helping Africa is not to turn them into a welfare state. The answer is, I know he's changed since then.
He has.
But the answer is to give them freedom and capitalism. That's how you change it.
And he arrived at that answer through his many works.
That's one of the reasons I wanted to bring him up, because I think he realized it wasn't so easy to just go give money to somebody.
You have to help them make their own money.
Yeah.
But in Africa, I mean, you have an unusual problem because of corrupt governments. And that's coming soon to a country near you, America.
Yeah, Africa's style of government's coming here.
Yeah. I mean,
not the other way.
They want you to eat bugs. They want you to not have energy many hours a day, because
is Joe Biden going to eat bugs for dinner? I'm just curious.
He's not. And he's going to have electricity even when down or whatever, because they can't produce enough generators. It's ridiculous. They want us to take less while they take more. They're a parasite, and they're going to suck America dry, and they are going to suck the world dry, and then we're going to be left over scratching to find the little bits that we can to make sure that we can feed our families and take care of those around us. That's where we're headed.
Well, and I'll tell you what, I mean, you had the banking system on top of it that they control too. The elites control the money.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what, if you want a great interview, I have not finished watching the Robert Kennedy Joe Rogan interview, which you got to watch, Jay. You have to watch that.
Okay.
Because Kennedy really goes in depth on this. I know I'm getting off topic here, but like the vaccine stuff and garbage in our food and things like that. I mean, I disagree with Mr. Kennedy on some issues, but, you know, he has taken on a lot of issues that I think never get talked about. Why do kids have food allergies today? Why do we have cases of eczema and other things? What's happening? And nobody knows. And then you've also got to watch Tucker Carlson's take.
Yeah.
Like he's doing half-hour videos every day, and you've got to see some of them.
Yeah.
Since he's been kicked off of Fox. I mean, you know.
They're good.
They're really good. Bill O'Reilly's doing half-an-hour spots every day, too, and he's got some great analyses of other things. I mean, you've got to subject yourself, folks, to podcasts and alternative things and not this drive-by 5-minute media.
Right. The take that Glenn Beck has had on a lot of this stuff has been stuff you're not going to hear on Fox News, let alone CNN, MSNBC.
And here's the thing. And Glenn Beck and Tucker Carlson, former employees of Fox and CNN.
Yes.
Lou Dobbs, too.
Yeah.
Who does great work in the finance stuff, too.
Yeah. And there is so much that is going on right now that he's done the work. His researchers have gone and done the work, and they have these books. One on the Great Reset, another one that's coming out called Dark Futures. I can't wait to read. And the section that just, you know, their bibliography with all the resources is in the back of every book, and it's so thick because they have done their work. Period of plenty. We are going into a recession. We are going into a depression if we don't do something about this.
Well, and we've talked about it largely. It's the printing of money. I mean, we've printed, you know, Robert Kennedy said that we have printed 10 centuries of money in 15 years. And I don't think he's wrong.
Right.
I think we have. And what's that resulted in? Inflation. What's inflation? Inflation is a tax on the poor. I mean, ultimately, inflation is hurting more than any tax could. You know, you can't. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it is hurting lower and middle class people. It more than any tax could possibly hurt them.
Yeah.
And I see no end to it because the printing of money has not stopped. The deficit spending has not stopped. The monies we're sending overseas has not stopped. The money that we're sending to military industrial stuff, none of that is stopped.
Right.
So we're Thelma and Louising right now. And I hate being such a pessimist about it. Maybe I don't hate it because I always am. But, you know, I mean, it is really, I mean, I don't understand, and I don't agree with the government definition of a recession or you know, because the way they define it to me is a little bit facetious. You know, so I don't know. I don't know what's gonna turn it around. I don't know if anything will. I really don't. I don't know if policy can either. We don't have an honest media, so that's, you know, they're obsessed with the latest Trump speech, so they don't care.
Yeah.
So I don't know what'll turn it around. And getting back to these school districts, I mean, at some point we're going to have to give them zero for money. I mean, they're just going to, we have to say you people are incompetent and you can't continue with this.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Jay. I'm pretty pessimistic. Man.
The answer is to get your kids out of the public school system, and
that's a short-term answer. I mean, that's a short-term answer to that. And I mean, the only way that's going to force change is if 50.1. I mean, that's the magic percent It has to be out of there. But I'll tell you what, the burden that puts on a parent.
I know.
I wish it was a simpler solution than that. By the way, New Hampshire just signed, and this is something I'm going to look into, a kind of a voucher knockoff bill. So I'm going to study that a little bit, see if I can bring some details to it. But I saw it on one of the Education Choice Twitter feeds yesterday. So I'm going to
congratulations to any state that can get through their teachers union to get something like that signed. So,
I know. And you know what? You know what's so sad about that is there's so many good teachers when I was younger. I mean, I remember a lot of them.
Yeah.
And even though I was a kid who never did homework, I still had a lot of teachers who were funny and cool. And I just, to stand here and rip on teachers is not something I want to do, but they're an obstacle to any changes in education. And why don't we just be honest about it?
There are some good teachers, but their hands are tied. They really are.
Yeah, and again, I think they're kowtowed into silence. I think that they're intimidated, and unfortunately,
at some point they've got to stand up too. Because if you really care about the kids and you see that things are going wrong, you have to put the kids even above your own job.
Yeah, or they've got to go. They've got to go to alternative education. That's where they need to go.
Why don't all the teachers, the good teachers? And I'm not even saying just Christian teachers, but the good teachers who are horrified by what's going on in the schools. Why don't you bind together and start trying to set up maybe some charter schools or some different alternative education to get the bulk of these kids out of the public schools? Why can't you be the Oscar Schindler that goes in and get these kids out of a dangerous situation and puts them into a safe situation?
Yeah, I don't know. I just think
history will remember you forever if you do this.
Yeah, they just put their own self-interest first. I mean, which I guess I get it to
That's
a certain
normal,
I get it to a certain extent. The teachers are also trying to pay their rent and
right,
feed their
and it's normal, but we're not normal times anymore.
Have we ever been in what's normal time?
I think that we have been. I mean, I think that there are periods of time where
the 80s that was
maybe we were oblivious to what was going on, the undercurrent, but where things were an undercurrent and it wasn't trying to be thrust into the mainstream, where it wasn't all hands on deck emergency. You know, I
don't know what's changed. I mean, I can't put my finger on what's changed.
Where can we start?
I mean how that changed, like how you say the undercurrent became the overcurrent. I mean, I don't know how that changed, but anyway, that's for another day, Jay.
Yeah,
you need to give us some words of.
I'll see if I can close this podcast out positively.
I don't know. All right, ladies and gentlemen, another episode in the can. We got 3 left, and then we're done.
What, really?
Styling and profiling, jet flying, limousine riding, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun. Jay, sign off sermon. Take it away.
Okay. Thanks, Andrew, I think. All right. You know, we are not in normal times. Normal times, we can get up, go to work, come home, and we do the best we can by our families. We take our kids to their sporting events. We do what we can to just build a good life, right? Well, we're not in normal times. And the reason we're not in normal times is because for so long we have neglected what we've needed to do to keep a sane society. You know, so, you know, they say that, how does the old saying go? Something to the effect that strong men build good times build weak men build weak times, and weak times build good or strong men. Something to that effect. We are definitely in the weak scenario here. But I think that there are a lot of such strong men and women out there who care enough about their country, but they're just not standing up enough yet. We see pockets of it. We see pockets of resistance, but we don't hear enough people speaking out. I know that we've got people that are speaking out here in Minnesota in places like the Elk River School District. They're starting to speak out a little bit in the Robbinsdale School District. They're speaking out down in Bloomington. But it's not enough yet. We need to have parents that are engaged in every school district across this state and across this nation. It needs to be done because when teachers' unions have gotten involved, I'm sorry, but even in the reddest of red places, even in Texas, you have school boards that are doing all of this crazy stuff, putting the pornographic material in the school libraries, and then talking about banning books. It's not about banning books. It's about putting in the right, age-appropriate material into your libraries. Because let me tell you, these people aren't necessarily allowing the Bible in. They're banning that book. Or the left isn't banning certain books because they're changing them. How is that not censorship of a different name? They're changing Dr. Seuss. They're changing Huck Finn. They're changing Roald Dahl. Just change it. Then you don't have to ban it. I'm sorry. That's every bit as bad. No. We as parents and concerned people of the community, if you live in a school district, which all of us do, you're paying taxes to that school district. You have a voice. You have skin in the game because you're paying teachers' salaries. You're paying superintendent salaries. You are paying taxes to buy curriculum, to have school boards and administration meeting to come up with the school policies on discipline. It needs to come from parents. We see where parents are getting outraged. And even in places like Maryland, parents are starting to fight back. Virginia, these are not conservative strongholds. There are Democrats, Constitution-believing Democrats, Bill of Rights-believing Democrats, mixing with Republicans that are going and fighting the system, and they're having an effect. Why aren't we doing it? Everywhere. Every city council, every county commission, every school board. Why aren't we doing it? Why do we let the same Republicans and Democrats run for office at the state and the federal level? Time after time after time, we complain about what they do. We see what they do, the negative impact it has on our lives, and we do nothing. We let those people go straight through the primary and into the general election where they get elected again. And we won't vote for a Republican because they're so bad, even though we hate everything that's happening to us because the Democrat has voted for all of it. It is madness at the highest degree. So where are the people that are speaking out? Where are the people willing to stand up? Where are the people willing to go to St. Paul, willing to go to their school board chambers, willing to go to their city chambers, willing to go to their county chambers and confront? That's what the First Amendment is all about. Question your government for redress of grievances. For the press to be free and open and able to write about these things, to the freedom of association so that you can associate with other people that agree with your beliefs. You're supposed to be unstoppable, but yet we, like the Declaration of Independence says, that men will suffer as long as things are sufferable. I can't imagine us going through more than this. Are you really okay with things to the point where it's really not that bad yet? Really? The higher taxes, the higher food costs, the higher gas costs, mortgages, the cost of a home skyrocketing through the roof, making it harder for you to get a home if you want to buy a house, because it's really 50 open houses to view a home, especially in certain types of homes. You have corporations, banks, investment companies going through and buying homes in bulk, making there a smaller supply. Well, they try to put everybody into townhomes and luxury apartments and senior living and to take mass transit, electric cars, taking away natural gas, all of these things, you're really okay with it. You see it happening. Some of these things are even getting reported on mainstream news. So you know that if it's hitting there, you know it's happening. But yet, we don't do anything. We don't stand up. We don't get that intestinal fortitude. We need to be able to stand up to the bullies. That time has to be done. We have to get our voice. We have to find those words to be able to tell the people that say they represent us, no. It's that simple. No. You're not representing us. You need to listen to us because you're not. And we need to put together coalitions where we peacefully go out and we protest, where we peacefully go out and we petition the government and make our voices heard. No, we don't take up arms. No, we don't start violent insurrections. No, we don't break the law. We allow ourselves to get beat. We allow ourselves to be pushed around because, you know what? People are going to see that, and we're going to gain even more people to our cause, and it will be just like the 60s. That is what happened. Martin Luther King did not allow people to get out of hand. He did not allow people to come and demonstrate with him that we're going to start fights, that we're going to take the law into their own hands. No. He allowed the country to see exactly what was being done to him, what was being done to other African Americans, and they won. Are you tired of this? Then you allow this nation to see what they are doing to you. But to do that, you got to find your voice, and you got to be there. That's how it works. At the end of the day, that is how it works. So, are you going to do it? Or are you just fine with America going into the sunset and eating bug burgers? Not having anything, not owning anything, not being able to drive because there's blackouts and brownouts, not being able to cook, not being able to do, not having lights on in your home because of the blackouts and the brownouts, having shortages and everything. Are you okay with that? Do you really want to take a chance that that's where we're not headed? Because I don't believe that that most of you do. But do you want it bad enough? Are you hungry? Are you hungry enough to stand up for freedom and win? Or at least die trying? If you're willing to join us, now is the time to start thinking about a run in 2024. Now is the time to start entertaining it so that you can make a decision by this fall. There's something Andrew said earlier where he was talking about ways to win. One of those ways is to hire us to help you with strategy for your campaign, because the people that hire us and follow what we ask them to do usually win. You want to join Team 20K? 20,000 people in local seats? 20,000 butts in local seats. Appointed, elected. Now's the time. Now is when we make our move. Who's hungry? Who's with us? You get a hold of us at commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. That's commsolutionsmn@gmail.com, and let's start a movement together that is going to change the fortunes of this state and this nation. We love you, America. We love you, Minnesota. But now it's your turn to get to work. Take my